Welcome again, everyone, to the FSAirlines video tutorial series. Today we're going to talk about the airport code differences between all the different versions of simulators as well as FSAirlines. Before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to this band of kids. Well, they're young adults, some of them now. This is Liliac, and they are out of Georgia, a self-produced, self-financed band. We figured that song would be very appropriate because we're getting a lot of support tickets and a lot of questions about the FSAirlines airport codes. Why doesn't the code in my simulator match the airport code in FSAirlines? And why can't FSAirlines just change them to make me happy? Well, reality check, folks. FSAirlines is compatible with so many different flight simulator formats. They span almost 2 decades. So there are quite a bit of differences between, for example, the airport codes in, say, Flight Simulator 9 or 2004 and the modern Microsoft Flight Simulator, otherwise known as Flight Simulator 2020. So the basic rule of thumb when you go to book a flight is before you do anything, you want to make absolutely sure that where you are departing from and where you are going are the exact same geographic locations as to what FSAirlines has in your flight route. So the thing you want to remember, the rule of thumb is verify your locations, book your flight using the FSAirline codes, but then you fly the flight using your simulator codes. And so we're going to look at an example here. This is a flight out of Bella Bella Campbell, British Columbia. This one popped up today. This is why we're doing this video. And if you're looking, you'll see that the old code was Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2, and that's in FS9, FS Flight Simulator 10, as well as the early versions of Prepared 3D. And it was also the original code of Bella Bella Campbell in British Columbia. Now, it changed at some point to where it is now at Charlie Bravo Bravo Charlie. That is the real code of this airport. And Microsoft's new flight simulator, FS 2020, has the new code, along with Prepared 3D version 5. And I do believe X-Plane 11 has it as well. I've never used X-Plane, so you X-Plane fans out there, don't go hating on me because I may not have some X-Plane facts correct. Now, today we're going to try to fly to an airport that is not even in our simulator, but it is in FSAirlines. We want to take a fishing charter from Bella Bella Campbell, and we want to go to Rivers Inlet. Now, the real airport code at Rivers Inlet is Charlie Alpha Uniform 8. It does not exist in FSX, FS9, or in the default versions of Flight Simulator 2020, unless they have put it in some of the latest updates. I also do not have Flight Simulator 2020 as, number one, I have too much invested in Flight Simulator 10 and my internet is not fast enough. Now, Prepared 3D version 5 has the correct code, Charlie Alpha Uniform 8. However, in FSAirlines, they have the airport code set up for the majority of the users. Right now, the majority of the users in FSAirlines are Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new game, the FS 2020. The second most popular one is X-Plane 11. So if an airport is not in FS 2020 and it's in XP11, FSAirlines database will step down a level to XP11. Now, for some reason known only to the developers of XP11, they have called Charlie Alpha Uniform 8 Sierra Yankee Romeo India. Now, if you Google Sierra Yankee Romeo India, you will come up with Damascus, Syria. So a lot of people have been complaining about situations like this where the airport code is totally wrong. Well, the good news is about FSAirlines, it has nothing to do with the actual airport code. FSAirlines determines your position by the lat and long, the latitude and the longitude of your actual position. Now, before we get too much into that, one thing to note after all these changes in the last year or so, if you were to just dial in Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2, as a flight route, knowing that it's been there all along, and you put your airplane at Bella Bella Campbell, all of a sudden you're going to get this "you're not at the right airport" message when you go to fly the flight. That's because in the real world, and as well as Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2 is now Cayuga East, Ontario. If I pronounced that wrong, I apologize, Canada. And it is right here, a little tiny airport that is north of Lake Erie and just south of Toronto. So if you put that in to fly to Rivers Inlet, you're looking at 1,743.82 nautical miles GPS direct. So obviously that's not going to work in your float plane. So make sure, absolutely positively sure, that the departure airport in your simulator has the same coordinates as the departure airport in FSAirlines. And so you go, well, okay, so how can I check what FSAirlines really has? Well, we go to FSAirlines as we say goodbye to Liliac, and we are going to come down here on the left margin to airports under the database. See database, airports. And we click on that, and then we're just going to type in Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2. And we're going to submit it. Now, as you notice, two different airports come up. And we can see that the current airport code being used for Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2 by Microsoft Flight Simulator and Prepared 3D version 5, as well as FSAirlines, is the one south of Toronto. Bella Bella Campbell is Charlie Bravo Bravo Charlie. And if you'll notice here, it says, oh, be careful, FSX2 still uses it as Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2. Now, for some of you high-end users of FSX that have had Navigraph global updates to your database for charts, for nav aids and for airports, and you have updated your FSX database, this, of course, does not apply to you. However, you do have to be aware of the changes between FSX and even Microsoft Flight Simulator 2. So now that we have figured out what airport we're actually going to use, we can set up our flight plan. And let's see, the airport doesn't exist. The current code was taken. Yes, the current code was taken from X-Plane 11, so we don't know what that's all about. Now, this is just a seaplane base with a latitude and longitude that's just west of the Narrows there at Rivers Inlet. It's a fishing resort. And now they currently have a landing strip on the east side of the Narrows that's approximately 3 miles from the actual center of where the Latin Long is for the seaplane port. Now, that 3 miles is pretty important, and we're going to discuss that right now. In FSAirlines, because it determines your location by Latin Long, if this is the center of the airport you're going to fly to, you can actually land within a 3-mile radius of the center of that airport and still get a good landing, as in landing at the destination. So as we look at this, the runway at Rivers Inlet is right on that 3-mile edge. Now, this is not a congested area. There is no other airport anywhere near it. So you could probably stretch the radius out a little further. But so we should be able to land at this airport just fine and get credit for landing at Rivers Inlet. Because if you figure a major airport is miles across, so So when you're planning your 3-mile radius, make sure, if you're going to an airport that's not on your simulator, that you are doing your 3-mile radius from the actual center of the FSAirlines airport and not the center of the airport where you actually want to land. Because if we were to go 3 miles further to the east and say, okay, we can land in this nice big white spot with our float plane, that will be probably outside the 3-mile radius, and you may or may not get a good landing. So you always want to make sure that you are checking your data from the airport center of the lat and long of the FSAirlines airport. And now somebody goes, well, I don't know how to do lat and long and all that stuff. Well, it's really not that difficult because we can come here. Let's call this up SY. All right, and submit. And then we click on the little information icon. And now there's a map that will show you exactly where the center of this airport has been placed in FSAirlines. Our map features haven't been all that good lately, but it is at least effective enough to see it. You can see that it's on the west side of the inlet where the village and stuff is, and the actual runway is over here. So when you plan your 3-mile radius of where I want to land around this, if you have a float plane, you're going to land in the water, you'd probably land over here to the left, or you would land at the airport if you had a land-based airplane. So that's how that would work. So we go back to our slides here, and so the center of the airport is approximately here, Rivers Inlet. I threw a new runway in FSX using an Airport Design Editor just to test it out to see if it worked. And even though it's not exactly where it's supposed to be, it works just fine. So I also did a landing on the water. The seaplane base is here. I landed my Quest Kodiak amphibian in the Narrows, which would have been a neat trick because it's actually, I think, pretty rapidly moving water. And the real landing strip is over here. And this, of course, is default Flight Simulator 10 scenery, and there's absolutely nothing there but wilderness. So this was my flight report after I did that flight using FSX Theme Edition. You can see that it's a perfect flight. We have our route. Now, if you're wondering how to plan a route to an airport that's not in your system, just use SkyVector and figure out your route. And then what I did in my route planner in my simulator is that I just made a route from Bella Bella to Vancouver, but then I changed all my waypoints to match SkyVector. And then once I got to Rivers Inlet, I just didn't even bother with the rest of the route because I wasn't going anyway. So I took off from Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2 in an FSX, but it was actually Charlie Bravo Bravo Charlie in FSAirlines. If you'll notice, Charlie Bravo Bravo Charlie, but I actually departed Charlie Alpha Foxtrot 2 in my simulator. I landed on the water near Charlie Alpha Uniform 8. However, that is Sierra Yankee Romeo India in FSAirlines. There is no airport, no airplane, no seaplane base, no airport in FSX when I did this flight. But as you can see, the data report shows that I landed just fine. So you can fly to airports that are not in your simulator. You just have to have the right latitude and longitude when you touch down, so that FSAirlines agrees that you are near the airport that is in the FSAirlines database. So once again, just remember, it's all about lat and long. It really has nothing to do with the airport code. So if your code does not match FSAirlines, please don't send in a support ticket saying we need to change it, because all you need to do is use this workaround where you simply book to from and to the airports in FSAirlines, but then you fly from and to the airport codes in your simulator You just have to make sure that those locations are actually the same locations. And also for all you people that are interested in seaplane and water operations, make sure your float plane has a parking brake so you can end the flight. So that is how it all works in FSAirlines as far as the airport codes go. So I hope that helps a little bit, take some of the agony and fear out of it all, as it's really not all that difficult once you understand it. So once again, FSAirlines is very proud to have an interface that works with so many different simulators, and we're not about to change that. So you just got to deal with this as part of the deal, the fact that we let everybody participate. Y'all have a great day. We'll see you again soon. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the virtual skies.